I mean, it still seems like a pretty niche thing. Like I would hope that this record might help with us crossing over a bit to more like like a metal crowd maybe, or a younger crowd, or more indie type crowd, because I think there's elements of all those styles on this album. But as far as like the pure prog crowd, yeah, it's fairly niche, and I think it's growing maybe a bit. Like I think stuff like Cruise to the Edge has helped. Um, kind of get the message out a bit more than maybe it had been in recent years. But yeah, it's still a pretty specific sort of thing.
Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I'm happy to welcome Jonathan Schange here. And he is the drummer and band leader for a band called District 97. And I got to listen to the whole album. I have to say I was very impressed. You've got a new one coming out in the fall, October 20th, I believe you said.
That's correct. Yep.
Man, I'm just going to let you start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into talking about the music.
All right. Well, I'm Jonathan Schange. I'm as you said, the drummer and band leader of District 97. Formed the band back in 2006. It was originally an instrumental outfit, and then we got Leslie Hunt, who at that time had just finished up on American Idol. She made it to the top 10 women back in 2007. She joined the band in 2008, and we had been friends from college, so that's how we knew each other. All five of the original D97 members went there. And so I heard her sing quite a bit. She had a band called Mark Twang that was like an acoustic folk sort of thing. So that's really mainly where I had heard her sing, but she's just had this harder edge to her voice that kind of stuck in my mind, and I felt like I mean that band was they were pretty great musicians, so they had some adventurous stuff in there, and I could tell she could hang with some more unorthodox kind of writing. So when I started writing music for District 97 that had vocals in it, and that was coinciding with her time on American Idol, it just got me thinking maybe somehow I don't know, she could work to sing the stuff, even though we had always thought we would get a male singer, kind of like try to become the next Dream Theater or something. But it was kind of a long shot, but it ended up working perfectly. Got our longtime guitarist Jim in the fold just after Leslie. Our keyboardist Tim and Andrew replaced the founding members in 2015. And this will be our fifth studio album, and I think it's the best work we've done yet.
Well, I know you're labeled as a prog rock band, but you've got a lot of avant-garde style, like what I like to call Frank Zappa style music. Did you get influenced by Zappa?
Yeah, definitely. I started listening to Zappa, I think, when I was in college. So I'd already just, kind of digested the discographies of a lot of bands like Yes, Genesis, ELP, Jethro Tull. And then eventually I was like, well, I keep hearing about Zappa because people, like there was a guy at college who um, D97 was just kind of gestating. And so he heard some of that. He's like, you must be a big Zappa fan, huh? I was like, well, not really, actually. Like, I better dive into this. So, but yeah, at this point, he's definitely an influence.
What got you into the prog music?
I got into Prague via Yes. Well, actually, it kind of started really as long as I can remember, because my dad um, was a bit of a fusion and prog nut, though kind of with more, I don't know, niche things. Like I grew up hearing the Bruford album "One of a Kind."
Mhm.
I don't know how many times I would have heard that, probably between the ages of 3 and 15 because it's one of his favorite albums. So that was some of the first music I ever heard. I thought that was just kind of normal music and that every guitarist could play like Alan Holdsworth. But but as I grew older, I kind of, started to understand that was a special type of gift. Um, but anyways, I really got bitten by the prog bug randomly, hearing Yours Is No Disgrace by Yes on the radio, which I don't know if I've even heard it on the radio anytime before or since then. But I was just taken by that 10-minute journey that went through so many different moods and sonic landscapes. Luckily, the DJ announced afterwards that that was Yours Is No Disgrace by Yes. So then I mean, this was, well, there was internet, but this was probably late 90s or so. So it wasn't as easy to figure everything out at that time. But I went about getting the Yes album on CD, and I saw the name Bill Bruford on drums, who I knew from the band Bruford because my dad was always playing it growing up. So then I kind of realized, there's a through line here, but with the stuff I already know. So that set me about delving into every single Yes album and then branching off into other prog acts from there.
Yeah, I noticed you had one instrumental on the album. You had one song almost starts out like a 70s folk kind of song, and then you get a little bit more rocking into it. What's your inspiration?
Uh, well, I think that probably varies by band member. There are three songs on this album that I kind of had the genesis for. I guess I tend to get my ideas often from things I read. So two songs I wrote the lyrics for, or at least most of the lyrics. One of them was based on an article in a New York magazine about somebody called The Watcher, which they later turned into a Netflix series. So people might be familiar with that. But long story short, it was about this family that moved to suburban New Jersey into a dream home, and then they start getting messages in the mail, like "Welcome to the neighborhood. I'll be keeping my eye on you, the Watcher." And the messages got progressively creepier and threatening, like threatening their children and saying the house needs fresh blood. I hope nothing happens to little Julie or whatever the kid's name was. Um, so that was kind of my jumping off point for. I tend to write kind of one kind of macabre or strange epic per album because I just find these stories tend to light a fire under me creatively, and I can use the narrative to kind of help drive the music. So yeah, The Watcher's about 10 minutes long and closes the album. The other one I wrote the lyrics for is called Life Cycle, and that was um, inspired by the book Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke,
Mhm.
which I later found was also the inspiration for Watcher of the Skies by Genesis. And I guess Pink Floyd read it too, because I was going to name the song Childhood's End, but I saw they already have a song by that title. Um, so I guess it has a long history in prog rock already, but the story there is this seemingly benevolent alien race comes to Earth, and their craft are hovering over our skies, and they just kind of set up camp basically, and then they kind of turn things into what seems like a utopia, and this goes on for quite a while, and no one really knows exactly why they're here. But then as time goes on, um, it becomes clear the reason they're here is to sort of assist or observe the next transformation of humanity or a stage in evolution where we shed our human form. I've just found the book quite mind blowing, and I had written all the music and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for lyrics, and but I felt like the music had a bit of an otherworldly quality to it, and that it would fit with lyrics inspired by that story.
Well, I've read that y'all are heading over to like Europe, Germany, Netherlands. Is this your first time overseas?
No, this will be our fourth time.
Wow.
And we're opening the tour. Well, first we're doing a show in Chicago on August 18th. I'm not sure if this will be out for that or not, but and then we will be in Italy for our first time on September 2nd at the 2 days plus one Prague Festival, which is near Milan. And also on the bill that day will be Big Trains. So we're pretty psyched about getting to finally see them, you know. And then we go to Germany near Frankfurt at a place called Das Rind in Rüsselsheim.
Mm-hmm.
Then 2 nights at De Borderij in Zoetermeer, Netherlands, where we'll be joining Steve Rothery from Marillion for his Marillion weekend, or well, his Steve Rothery band weekend, where he's playing a couple different early Marillion albums, and we'll be opening up the night uh, for both nights of the festival. So that's going to be great. And then we skip over to London for the a Sunday in September Prague Festival, um, which the Enid will also be on the bill, and some other great bands. So it's a pretty good itinerary with some nice festivals in the mix and some other great bands. So if you're able to make it to those countries, come out and see us.
Is this going to be the first time that you've gotten to play any of this music live?
We've been playing most of it live for a while. Like we tend to break in our new music on stage for a bit and kind of get a sense of what's working well and what we want to retool. So we have played a lot of it, but not certainly not in Europe. We haven't played any of it. And there are 2 songs, Life Cycle, which we talked about, and the upcoming single Crossfaded. Those were 2 that we had never played live before we recorded them. So that was kind of a new approach for us because usually we have everything pretty dialed in before we hit the studio, but this was a different process. But I don't think you can really tell that I don't think those 2 songs stand out for sounding like they were thrown together or something. Like they sound as cohesive as anything else. Yeah, everybody seems to think the new stuff is among the best we've ever done. So yeah, it's been good to have that positive feedback.
So I'm assuming that's had a big influence on what you were going to put on the album. Did you have stuff that you originally wanted to put on that you kind of threw away?
Well, there was like, I mean, one thing I can recall that we did change was there's a track called Divided We Fall on this
Mm-hmm.
album that we put a live album out a couple years ago called Screenplay, and we had like a quarantine demo version of Divided We Fall on there because it was COVID times and we just wanted to like throw something new on the album. And it got a good response, but some people were like, the ending seems too abrupt. Like that part should go on longer at the end. So we actually did end up extending the ending for the final version of the song, which will be on the new album. So yeah, we did take fan feedback into account.
And how much experimental as far as sounds?
Hmm. Um, well, I would say that there's definitely some guitar tomfoolery on the album, messing around with different pedals and stuff. And Andrew did some pretty cool synth sounds that I think took things a bit farther sonically than we've done in the past. So yeah, I would say it's more things like that, like more textural type of things where we got more experimental.
Do you like to just sit down and try to jam to get some of those songs together, or do you already have it in your head what you want to write?
Usually, yeah, we come in prepared. Like I think for each of these songs, whoever was the composer prepared some sort of demo for them and sent it out to everybody, and we would all check it out and get somewhat familiar with it. And then once we start playing it as a band, we would fine tune, and hone things together. Um, but yeah, nothing really came out of some spur of the moment. It was all pretty laid out in advance.
How do you find the audience? I mean, do you see that there's more people getting into prog rock?
That's a good question. I wish I had a better answer for that, but I mean, it still seems like a pretty niche thing. I would hope that this record might help with us crossing over a bit to more like like a metal crowd maybe, or a younger crowd, or more indie type crowd, because I think there's elements of all those styles on this album. But as far as like the pure prog crowd, yeah, it's fairly niche, and I think it's growing maybe a bit. Like I think stuff like Cruise to the Edge has helped. Um, kind of get the message out a bit more than maybe it had been in recent years. But yeah, it's still a pretty specific sort of thing. So, but I do very much appreciate the people out there that are shouting it out from the mountaintops like you.
What got you into drums?
I mean, well, as long as I can remember, I was just banging on stuff as a kid. Just had a natural impulse to do it. I mean, I really got bitten by the music bug around age 3 or 4, listening to the Beatles. My dad was buying Beatles CDs when they were first coming out. So became Beatles obsessed, and so was always drumming along to their stuff. But the first drummer that really blew my mind and made me think this is what I want to do with my life was John Bonham.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was basically Bonzo that showed the path forward, I guess. And when it was time to take up an instrument in school, when that was an option, immediately chose percussion, and it just kind of went along from there.
Do you play anything else?
Yeah, I play keyboards as well. Like I write all my music on keyboards.
I don't know how you guys can sing and play drums at the same time. I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, I used to do some of that, but I'm just not a good enough singer for it to really be worthwhile.
But your guitarist sings.
He does, yeah. Yeah, I always consider his backing vocals to be kind of our secret weapon. He's got a good enough voice to be a lead singer, so it adds quite a lot.
What do you like to do outside of music?
Well, um, I what well, kind of like the other half of my musical life is I work with dancers almost every day. Like there's a dance company in Chicago I was just working with this morning called Hubbard Street Dance. Um, so I mean, I never really cared about dance growing up. I didn't think there was anything much to it, but I just kind of fell into working with dancers as an accompanist, and so now I've got a good deal of appreciation for that art form. But also, film, and I'm gonna go to the Art Institute in a little while here in Chicago, a great art museum. Um, so yeah, I mean, just kind of other art forms I like to explore, reading, cooking, eating, nature, um, so things of that sort.
So you're thinking about making films?
Well, I did kind of delve into that world. During 2020, we put out a short animated film called Ghost Girl, which is a track from our previous album,
Mhm.
Screens. And that was an interesting process. It was a collaboration with the animation house called Zealous Creative that at that time was based out of LA. And they had a couple videos that had like, I don't know, 20 million views or something. So I was thinking these would be some good people to work with. And last I checked anyway, Ghost Girl does not have 20 million views, but but it turned out really well. And I did submit it to a bunch of film festivals, and it got into some uh probably the most prestigious. It's called CineQuest. Um, but the thing about it that was a bit of a disappointment was they were still being cautious with COVID, so like they just had an online film festival, and I had fantasies of, well, their normal festivals held in Silicon Valley, so I had fantasies of going there and I don't know, rubbing shoulders with Tom Cruise or something. But instead, they had an online festival, and nothing really came of it. So I don't know. I guess I'm a little jaded on Hollywood at this point, but I don't know, maybe I'll give it a try, another try at some point. But I did enjoy the process, and if you haven't seen Ghost Girl, it's on YouTube, and definitely put a lot of work into it. So check it out.
I'm gonna have to do that. And do you guys make your own videos?
Usually, yeah, though right now we're fortunate enough that Steven from our label is working on some videos for our two upcoming singles from Stay for the Ending. So we'll see what he whips up for that. It's kind of nice that he's taking the bull by the horns on it, but I'm sure we'll be giving input.
Now you guys have it on pre-order right now, right?
Yeah, you could pre-order the CDs through Cherry Red,
Mhm.
and we have on our Bandcamp page also a digital pre-order. And then on October 20th, I think it should be available everywhere.
Do you guys have a website?
Yeah, district97.net. We're on all the usual places: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
It's been great talking with you. I appreciate you coming on and spending your time with me.
Yeah, it was fun.
I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, well, hit that subscribe button. I want you to come back. And for the rest of you, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.